there, and welcome to Fantasy for the Ages, the show where father and son sit down and talk about some fantasy books. I'm the son of that equation, Zach.
And I'm the father, Jim. Thanks for joining us again today as we jump into some more exciting content from The Wheel of Time, Book 5, The Fires of Heaven.
That one.
Yeah, that one right up there on the screen. Zach, you saw it now. I finally did it.
Yeah, we've got new pictures. I'm like 2 years older than the last pictures.
Pretty much, yeah. You look more mature,
Nah,
and
I
I
just
just
look a
look
little more dead
heavier.
inside.
Oh, sheesh. Anyways, yeah, that was fun. Those pictures are taking over our recent New Orleans vacation. It was good to have some real material to work with again, and
Yeah,
I enjoyed that. How you doing today, Zach?
I'm doing all right. I had to work today. It was an interesting day, though. Someone yesterday who was like working on the roof in the clinic building had left the hatch open. And then this morning it rained some.
That's not good.
So I noticed that and then was part of climbing up a ladder and getting it figured out so we could close it. And it was a whole situation that was just like, how did they forget? But
That
it was a
does
fun
seem
little
odd.
thing. Beyond that, I am enjoying my Saturday and ready to record with my dad. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's been a fun week. As people who follow our social media and stuff know, I spent the early part of the week out in Charleston, South Carolina, clear across the
Mm-hmm.
country. That was fun. I'd never been there before. Great historical city, one of the oldest places that have established buildings still there in North America. Unlike Europe, where things are thousands of years old in some places, we go back to the 1600s if we're lucky. I got to see some of that though, and that was kind of fun. And then it's just today been a great Saturday. I spent most of the morning prepping for this episode,
Woohoo!
so hopefully it won't go 3 hours. But it's great stuff to talk about today. It's also great that we have someone in the chat with us today, one of our
Absolutely.
patrons, Emmeline. Great to have her. She's been with us for a long time, and nice to have her in here. I was talking to her earlier today. She is almost done with the last book, so we don't have to worry about any spoilers on her account.
Nice. Well,
But we
almost
will
any spoilers.
we will still remember spoiler light in general until we get to the spoiler room at the end, where we'll totally spoil a couple of things. But for those of you that are first time readers, feel safe and secure here. We are definitely going to drop some hints today, but we're not going to spoil reveals that'll come later.
Correct.
Zach, I already saw you're drinking something, as
I
we
am.
usually do. Tell us what you're drinking.
I was inspired just to actually make some sort of cocktail because I received an early Christmas present from some friends, which is a bunch of different little like vials of different components and essentially to infuse bourbons with different flavors and things. And so I set that up and have something infusing for the next like week, and I'll probably try it the next time we record, or be trying some iteration of that. This is not
cool.
that. This just was, I was like, I'm going to actually make something. So I took some dried pineapple and muddled it up with some various rums and kind of sweetened it up that way, poured in some pineapple juice and some Sprite, and came up with this. It's relatively tasty, but I have no idea what the dried pineapple at the end is going to taste like. I'm hoping delicious booziness.
And that's a cool glass you're drinking out of. I like that.
Oh yeah, very classy.
Totally. As we started this episode, I realized I didn't do one thing with my devices around here that I usually do. So I may start to run out of charge if I don't fix something. I'm going to close my laptop. And if I suddenly go away, that's because I couldn't predict what's happening. Let me try.
You're still there.
I'm still there?
Well, you were still there. Hold on, give it a moment.
Am I back?
Well, you're still there. You're just a robot for a moment. So like stop moving.
Okay. Yeah,
Don't
everything glitched for just a little bit, but I'm fine now, right?
Mostly.
Mostly? Even mostly?
I mean, sometimes you glitch a little, but it has nothing to do with your signal.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, I did make a wattail for today. I crafted something special.
Okay.
I call it the Bloody Balefire,
Okay.
and it has a garnish. I don't usually
Ooh,
take the
you
effort to
leveling
create a
up your
garnish.
cocktails.
Yeah, but I did it. I think I failed with my garnish because
Oh no.
I have the world's largest orange slice on my. It was a big orange. The sucker is almost as big as the drink.
Yeah, you might need to work on your
I might
your
be doing
garnish
garnish
game.
wrong.
Um, but it definitely complements the drink. I guess makes it a little hard to drink. I think that's an issue.
All I smell is orange when I try to drink it now because it's so huge.
It's okay. All we see is orange blocking your whole face.
Anyways, this is on our drink recipes channel on our Discord, and I've posted it to our Instagram channel. But it only has 3 ingredients besides the big freaking huge orange that you do not have to put on. It's got Campari, rye whiskey, and dry vermouth. So it's not a sweet cocktail. It's the Campari is the bitters. It's
also
just
the red.
a cocktail. And the red, yes. It'll do. It'll do. Okay. Notes before we jump into things. Already mentioned again our spoiler light focus. Anyone who's been working through Wheel of Time with us, they already know that, but you never know when someone stumbles on this as the first episode. Other notes. I have read 100 books now this year. I hit the milestone.
Is insane.
It's been so much fun. I hope everybody sets goals like that. Get out there and read. Reading is fundamental.
I've been doing well. I'm nowhere near as far as you. I've managed, as of today, 26. So I've got over a quarter of what you've done, but you have done a ridiculous amount this year.
And right now I'm reading 4 more books. I think I might have a disease now. I don't know. If I'm going to be addicted to something, reading is probably a pretty good thing.
I'm going to be honest, if I read as much as you did, my bank account might not like it.
I mean, that helps that, I can afford to read. I get them from the library when I can.
That helps.
I'm not always patient enough to wait. Emmeline says, "You're just reading 4 right now? Slacker?" What am I reading right now, though? 2 of these, I'm almost done. So I'll hit 102 within a day, probably. But I'm reading Narilka's story from Dragon Riders of Pern. That's for our Pern book club. Yep, there it is, Zach. Very good.
Can I do it again? I don't.
It's not going to fit. Sorry. I'm also reading Brandon Sanderson's The Lost Metal, the finish of Era 2 of Mistborn. Very cool. I'm reading Into the Labyrinth, which is book 6 of the Deathgate cycle. There's only 7 books there, so I'm almost done with it. And I'm just finishing up Awakening, The Commune's Curse, book 1 by Lucy A. McLaren. That's the one I'm reading for a competition that I'm judging. It's not a bad book. I'm not going to go on in the series because I got other things to read, but I might add the rest of the series to my TBR. It's kind of been an intriguing fantasy start for a series. So, yeah. What are you reading right now, Zach?
Well, I'm still reading this one down here, Rhythm of War.
Oh, yeah, that'll take a while.
Long. I, too, am reading through this because book club. And that's a short read. It'll be fine. And then I've been trying to get through the Fiona Var Tapestry because we're doing something fun about that later on today. Notably, I have not finished the 3rd book, but I did finish the 2nd. So I'm doing my best to get as far through as I can before we actually talk about it.
Many agree the 2nd is the best of the series. So if you got the 2nd done, at least we have stuff to talk about.
Don't tell me that right now. Now I'm feeling like it's going to be a letdown going like.
Well, no, the 3rd is not bad, but I'll save comments for the next episode. Emmeline does want to point out that, I might have read 100 books, but she maybe has me beat on how many she's bought. Because, buying books is a whole nother thing.
Yeah. Let's not talk how many things are on the shelf that I
You have
still
bought a ton of
need to
books this year.
read.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
Many
and
of them
just,
I have read, but I still have lots to read.
I mean, just TBRs, how much I've added there. I'm still almost 900 books in my TBR, even with having read 100 this year.
So if you
Sheesh.
hadn't done that, you'd be in 4 digits.
Oh, probably. I could be in 4 digits already if I didn't have some self restraint. All right. Enough restraint, though, about this Wheel of Time content. Let's get to talking about the Fires of Heaven, yeah?
Let's do it. Chapter what? 5?
5, called Among the Wise Ones, where we see us focused on Egwene's point of view as she's in her tent amongst the camp of the Aiel in the evening one day. Now, Zach, I do want to ask, why is Egwene hanging out with the Wise Ones? Can you remind us why she's with them?
Uh, Most notably due to her talents with dreaming, and the fact that some of these wise ones also are dream walkers. They can walk through this world of dreams, this Teleron Riyadh, and she's been learning from them. She's been studying under them. There also are some channelers amongst them, but the real reason Egwene's there is not really to learn channeling. She's focused on the dream part here.
Right. So they agreed to train her in dream walking, but that means they train her their way, which
Like an
means they
Aiel.
just kind of took her on as a full Aiel apprentice, wise one. It's not just only one thing. I mean, everything they expect of anyone they train, they're expecting of Egwene. So that's been a different experience for her. They do treat her slightly different than
There
the
are some
rest of the
slight
apprentices.
concessions.
Yes, primarily because they believe something about her that's not true. Egwene has kept a secret from the wise ones. What is it that she has let them believe? That's not true.
She may still be hiding under the pretense of being a full Aes Sedai, which she definitely is not.
Ooh. And a bunch of people are complicit in that. I mean, Moraine hasn't spilled the beans. Lan, Rand, Matt, they all know she is not a full Aes Sedai. But they're all staying mum. It's her secret. In her thoughts, we see Egwene is actually here being kind of hard on herself for not being as tough as the wise ones, because she does not like that she's still sleeping in a tent right now. Where are a lot of the other Aiel staying? They moved into this thing right next door. It's got buildings. You know, they're in Rhuidean.
Yeah,
Even some of the wise ones are in Rhuidean.
yeah.
But not Egwene. She's still stuck sleeping in a tent. And the reason? Well, she had well, I'll get to the reason in just a moment.
Okay, we'll get to the reason.
Yeah. But the fact that she doesn't like being at a tent, the fact that it's cold out here and she doesn't like being cold, she's like, the wise ones don't whine about this. I should be tougher about this. I need to suck it up. So she's kind of being hard on herself. She's also self-talking some frustration that she doesn't have enough patience. Egwene and patience has not always gone together.
No, not particularly.
She wants to do things now. She wants to learn fast. And they're like always holding her back, slowing her down. That's frustrating. Of course, she had that same experience at the White Tower.
She's always been ambitious, which serves her well, but also doesn't fit with a lot of other people.
Right. Now, her thoughts stuck up in her head here are interrupted by a summons to join the wise ones at the sweat tent. Remind us what a sweat tent is, Zach.
I mean, it's kind of like a sauna vibe thing, but used for cleaning purposes. It fits more into some various like gladiatorial ancient Roman practices of sweat rooms where you would like be oiled and sweat off the body's impurities and grossness and scrape away the dirt and grime. And it's their version of a shower without using much water.
Exactly. And they typically do it at night when it's desert cold, but in the sweat tent, it's nice and hot. The problem is you have to get to the sweat tent. So the fact she's been summoned right now, she starts muttering to herself. She doesn't want to leave her tent, which is nominally warm, to walk out through the ice cold into finally the sweat tent. But fine, I gotta go. I've been summoned. I guess gotta do it. She throws on a robe and some shoes, and that's it. She's naked under the robe because she's just gonna take clothes off anyways. Keep it short and sweet so she can, because you have to take your clothes off before you get in the sweat tent. So if it's less complicated to get undressed, she figures she can duck in fast. That's the idea. Again, as she's getting ready to go to the sweat tent, this is where she's more muttering to herself, and we learn why she's still in a tent. She actually suggested to the wise ones who are training her, why don't we move into Rhuidean like everyone else? And Amis and Mullane, those are two of the ones training her. They were like, hey, yeah, that sounds fine. But the senior of the group, Bear, was like, we don't need no stinking buildings. She's kind of a traditionalist. So her concession is they're not camped way up on the slope of the mountain like they usually are. They're camped right outside the city. But they're still camping. There's no softening for us. Egwene is kind of still delaying as she steels herself to run outside. So she strikes up a little conversation with the guy Shine, who was the one who brought the message.
Or at the very least, she tries to.
Yeah, Kawinda, maybe is how you say it. I don't remember how the auto books does it. But
words are hard.
We learn a few things about Guy Shine right now from this conversation. One of it is that they don't like to talk about themselves. Like you said, kind of a conversation. She can't draw much out of her. And also, Guy Shane normally serve for a year and a day, but some of them are dealing with the bleakness by refusing to take off the white at the end of their time. Remind us what the bleakness is, Zach?
Rand's fault. It's the whole, oh yeah, you guys used to be Way of the Leaf stuff and shouldn't be what you are, but you are, so oops. And they went, our entire way of life is crumbling around us. Thanks, Rand.
Yeah. So where some have been walking away from their weapons and leaving their clans and stuff, Guy Shane are just refusing to go back to normal life. They're going to stay Guy Shane.
I still think it's really weird that you're saying Guy Shane.
You notice I jump back and forth. Sometimes I say Guy Shine. Sometimes I say Guy Shane.
I just think of it in the vowel placement. You look at it and it's like, those are the same vowel like groupings, but you say them differently depending on where it is in that word for when you're saying it.
That rule doesn't always apply consistently, though.
I think it does here, though. I think it does.
Maybe. Emmeline, you can tell us who you think is right. Or you can stay out of it. That's fair, too. She's like, yeah. All right, once at the sweat tent, we did finally get there. Egwene follows through with that plan, drops a robe, kicks off the shoes, ducks in. Even so, she's chattering because it's so cold. But instantly, it's hot. Because as you said, this is like a sauna. There's steam everywhere, plenty warm. She sees those who summoned her actively scraping off the dirt that comes away with the sweat that keeps popping out everywhere. Emmeline did chime in. Guy Shan. She's going with a new direction. I love it.
I'm be honest, the way that you just read that is not the way that I read it either, but I'm okay with it.
What, you go Guy Shan?
That's what's spelt.
Yeah. We can't do English, apparently.
I think the problem is you and I do pronunciation guides differently because they don't teach those much.
Okay. In this tent, who do we find? Well, we find the 3 specific Dreamwalkers, wise ones who are training Egwene. Bear, Mullane, and Amis.
There were 4. One of them died.
Yeah, very sad. Last book.
Yeah.
The 3 are all wise ones, but only 2 of them can channel. What's important about that, Zach?
One does not need to be able to channel to be a dreamwalker.
Yeah. And of course, we should already know this when we see, Parent doing things in the world of dreams. He can't channel.
That being said, it's also understandable to be questioning because Perrin's also got his own things going on that seem different.
Different, yes. But we're not talking about Perrin right now. Moving back onto this, also in the tent are 2 more people. Moraine, chilling out there naked as a jaybird, like, this is how I do things too. And Avienda, who is clearly on steam duty. She's taking care of the hot rocks and pouring water on, and it's important she keeps just enough steam in here. That is an apprentice's duty. Don't let the steam level get too low. You'll be chastised or disciplined. And Egwene knows this because some days that's her job. She doesn't usually get to hang with the wise ones in here. Sometimes she serves the wise ones in here, like Avienda's doing. Now, Avienda is naked as well. There's no clothes in the sweat tent. And therefore, Egwene is able to easily notice on her back marks where she's been switched. She's got these welts, these marks from being beat with, some little rod or something. She's like, what the heck? She knows wise ones are stern masters. They don't spare the rod. They will discipline you. You don't like that term.
I just didn't like the phrasing. It didn't feel right.
It was tying to a cliche that's out there in this case.
Anyway, they enjoy some corporal punishment. It's something that they use
when necessary. Often. They use all sorts of punishments, not always corporal. There was a time recently, we know Avienda got in trouble for letting Rand discover that the wise ones are peeking into his dreams. Her punishment that time was to dig holes and then fill them up. And just do it again and again and again. Dig hole, fill it up. Dig hole, fill it up. So that was a physical punishment, but it wasn't them beating her. And Egwene's kind of like, for them to actually have switched her, that's got to be like a next level thing she did wrong. And what could she have done? She is always so perfect as an apprentice. She, holds herself to such a high level. Egwene cannot picture what could have happened that would have got her switched.
Well, especially because we hear kind of through Egwene's thoughts that the wise ones are always telling Egwene, you should be more like Avienda.
Yeah. So right there, it's like she's the pinnacle of an apprentice, and yet she was switched. Is there anything at this point a reader should be able to draw on why she got switched? I don't think so. Not at this point.
Well, but you mentioned the whole thing about the connections with Rand and like dreams and stuff, and the reader might think it has something to do with that, but I think we should wait before diving too much because we will learn some things.
We will. Now, it's clear to Egwene, she's come in on the middle of a conversation, and Bear kind of snips at her about time, given the implication you should have been here earlier, and we're talking already because we got tired of waiting for you. But Moraine is actively trying to get the wise ones to help her divert Rand from his course of action, what he's going to do with the Aiel. Again, to recap, we learned in our last episode, Rand plans to lead the Aiel over the Dragon Wall and use them to force all the nations of that part of the world to unite behind him, at risk of him bringing down the wrath of Aiel upon them.
It's a brutal plan, but potentially effective.
Yeah, the wise ones think it's sensible, because they'll only be attacking the nations who refuse to support he who comes with the dawn. And everyone should support he who comes with the dawn. So they'll whoop butt for him. No problem. Moraine, though, she's still holding to the fact that the Amerlin out there has been working tirelessly to rally all the nations of the world to support the Dragon Reborn. And if he does this, it's going to blow up the plans completely. And then they'll all turn actively against Rand.
Yeah,
we can't let that happen.
Somebody really needs to tell Moraine that the plans already blew up. Like, what have these Dreamwalkers been doing if not figuring that out? Come on.
My garnish is too big to go in my drink.
Yeah, I saw that and was like, "You're okay."
There, I bent it.
Just be careful it doesn't slowly over time bend itself back and jump up in your face
Boing.
or your desk.
I'm tired of it hitting me in the face, though, so it's in the drink now.
I would have suggested it. It just looked too big to fit in your glasses, so I was like, "You're gonna have to cut it in half or something."
I gotta up my garnish game. All right. Well, after some back and forth between Moraine and the Wise Ones, it's clear it's going nowhere, and they're done talking about it. Moraine is dismissed. How does she take dismissal from the sweat tent, Zach?
Does she not do something along the lines of, "I have other business to be about. I will be going now." Basically spins it to "This was my choice. You didn't dismiss me," but they did.
Absolutely. The line that came from that Discovery Channel show years ago, I forget the name of it now.
I know where you're going.
I
and I'm
reject
like,
your
"I'm
reality
sorry.
and substitute my own." That's what she's doing here.
You couldn't remember the name Mythbusters?"
Mythbusters! That's it. Thank you. Brain getting old. I can't pull things out so much anymore.
I also couldn't tell you whether that was Discovery or not, but you claim it is, apparently.
Oh, it was Discovery Channel.
No idea.
At this point, the Wise Ones then tell Avienda, "We'd like our tea now." And both they and Egwene are surprised to see Avienda acknowledge, "Oh, I forgot to make it." And she hops out of the tent to take care of making the tea. Why is this surprising?
Because Avienda always is thinking about that, always is on it, always has the tea ready.
Apprentice. Right. She always anticipates what's going to be needed.
But her mind's not on it tonight.
Clearly, she's distracted. With Avienda out of the tent, Egwene asks about those switching marks on Avienda. And she learns from Bear that, the fool girl asked me to switch her. So this wasn't a punishment from the Wise Ones.
She felt it was needed.
She came to Bear and said she had lied twice today. Not to them, but she had told 2 lies, and her honor required punishment. She had toe. So Bear is like, "Why are you bringing your foolish problems to me? Fine, whatever. I'll switch ya." And she gave her a few extra licks just for making it part of her day.
It feels a little extreme, but sure, I guess.
Bear kind of accounts it to being, part of her being a former Far Deri's my. They've got all this honor stuff and they get it all in their head. And okay, she needs to get over that. But for now, fine.
She also makes a careful glance at Amis, who was Far Deri's my, and says, "No offense."
Astute readers now do have enough information to discern what those 2 lies were. But it's honestly tough to catch on the first read, and I would
argue giving it away goes borderline spoilery.
Yep. Not giving it away. Just saying, there is enough information to figure it out. The conversation now goes on to numerous matters, which we can just list off. 1, there are more lost ones in the Waste right now than anyone can remember, fleeing the turmoil across the Dragon Wall. Remind us who they call the Lost Ones?
The Lost Ones would be the Tuathaan, the traveling people.
I wonder if they'll quit calling them Lost Ones eventually.
Probably not. I mean, to be fair, they didn't stick to things either. They stuck to the way of the leaf, but they did lose their promise, which is what they lost. They were dedicated to. Therefore, they lost their Aiel-ness.
They gave up on the mission.
The Jedi get to keep their name and still be the true Aiel, but
the clan who is not.
They get to keep their name, and so do the Lost Ones, just with a more informed reason.
The Wise Ones are troubled by the changes Rand is bringing. We get that out here now. And they are definitely not reconciled to the changes. They're just preparing to endure them. So they are no happier with the havoc Rand is causing than any other Aiel are. They're just the ones that are sucking it up and going to find a way to make the best of it. They comment about how the maidens are clustering around Rand like they owe him more than any of their other responsibilities, and this is kind of nonsense. What is wrong with the maidens? Final thing they talk about is their frustration over the chiefs of the clans, who seem to be now deferring to Rand more than listening to the wise ones.
Mhm.
They don't seem to like that. In fact, they're keeping secrets from the wise ones, things that they talk about in council with Rand. When the wise ones then want to know what they talked about, it's like, that's not your business. That's clan chief business. They don't like being not in the loop.
Not particularly.
At this point, Aviana returns with the tea, and the talk shifts a new direction. The wise ones ask Egwene, just out of the blue here, how do you think Rand would react if Avienda asks him to sleep in his tent? Now, if she was drinking tea already, Egwene would be like,
Post take.
This sets off some chaos. Egwene is shocked at the impropriety of a woman sleeping in a man's tent. What? And Avienda is like, please don't make me do that. Not that. Please.
Don't worry. Different reasons. Avienda's not shy.
Now, the wise ones clarify, we're not asking her to, like, be in his bed. This is about
sleep in the
sleeping
tent,
with
not
him.
sleep with him.
Right. Just to be closer to him, to be in his presence. Egwene eventually then responds to the actual question and says, I don't know. I mean, the Rand I used to know would never have been comfortable with Avienda sleeping in his tent. But this new version of Rand, if you give him a good enough reason, he might acquiesce. That's my word of the day, by the way, acquiesce.
Fair enough.
She notes that it will likely help that he seems to like Avienda, and she just kind of, Avienda's over there going, that doesn't seem to help Avienda at all.
No.
But she quits arguing at that point. She strongly does not want to sleep in Rand's tent, but they've given her no options. As their apprentice, she's going to do as she's told. She's not happy about it, but she stops arguing. First-time readers, I just want to say they should really note how strongly Avienda has reacted against this directive. It's important. She's had strong reactions against things with Rand many times. And
she has strong reactions about specific topics more often than not.
Yes. Keep tallying these up and keep track. All becomes clear later. Emmeline says, the lady doth protest too much. The chat now turns in another new direction to Egwene in relation to Teleron Riyadh. Her next meeting with Nynaeve in the World of Dreams is a few nights off. And they ask, so have you been in Teleron Riyadh on your own lately? Which, of course, would be against our instructions. And Egwene confirms, no, I have not done that. And thinking
she
to
lies.
herself, she's like, well, not very often.
Not much, only like once a night. It's fine.
Just a little bit, as necessary.
Yeah, no, Egwene doesn't listen when she's told no, ever.
She follows directions when they make sense to her.
And this one, well, it makes sense. It's dangerous and that she shouldn't do it by herself, but also, like, she needs to. It's important. So, like, oh, well.
She justifies it. Absolutely.
She rationalizes it.
Yes. Now, she is supposed to be doing something related to the World of Dreams, but not in Teleron Riyadh.
No.
She's supposed to be trying to find Nynaeve and Elaine's dreams. We've seen two different things with the dream walking. One, where you're actually in Teleron Riyadh. So it's a real world place, it looks like. But you can, different rules. You can do different things. Okay, we've seen that. Mm-hmm. But then we've seen the black starscape. Where just dots all over the place.
An astral sea of sorts where you can...
Yeah.
kind of see these different points of light which represent people and their dreams. And if you can recognize them, you could find a specific person's dreams and even go engage and enter it, which is incredibly dangerous. But if you know what you're doing, a little better.
And wise ones have the ability to go ahead and identify specific people in that dreamscape. And they're trying to get Egwene to develop that skill.
Notably, it is a skill. It's not a magic, oh, they're a wise one, they can do this. It's like, no. They are dreamers, and dreamers with practice can do this. So they're trying to get Egwene there.
So Egwene's had no success, and they turn the screws up a little bit here. They say, okay, well, we want you to try harder. So Amis actually tells Egwene here, this isn't in my notes at this point, but I'm just throwing it in, that tonight I expect to see you in my dream. If not, we'll have words tomorrow. Okay. So she has homework. Now, they do feel it's an important skill to master because it's another form of communication. And we've seen it used for communication in the previous book. Can you explain how wise ones, how dreamwalkers can use this finding people's dreams as a means of communication?
I mean, loosely, if you can find someone's dream and go into it, you can tell them something in their dream.
But you said it's dangerous to go into a dream.
Yeah.
Why is it dangerous to go in someone's dream again?
Because in the dream, you don't have the power. They do.
Nope. Yeah. So you're at their mercy. And they're just dreaming. If they don't realize you're, step into their dream, because they're just having a dream, they're just going to do whatever their dream does, and you're going to be carried along with it.
And the biggest concern with a dream, as opposed to the world of dreams or something other, is that you aren't necessarily in full control of yourself and your own faculties if you are not careful and present of mind.
Right.
As their perceptions of you, the way that they are dreaming you, can change how you are and potentially even trap your mind.
Mm-hmm. Now, a skilled dreamwalker can just find a person's dream and in that dreamscape kind of just bump up against it enough to speak into the dream without entering the dream.
It's like going to someone's bedroom door as you think they might be awake, might be asleep, and just kind of talking straight at the door. They're going to hear you through. And
I like that. That's a great analogy, Zach. Yeah, well said. So, and if the person in the bedroom behind the door has the music turned on real loud, they might not hear you. You might have to yell really loud through the door. And that can be the same in a dream, depending on what's happening in that dream.
On the other side of the door that you're not aware of.
Yeah, you may have to work really hard to be heard. But again, a dreamwalker has these skills, can do this. So they want her to have this ability to be able to communicate over distances. That's how they called all the clan chiefs to gather back at Al-Kerdal. They visited other wise ones in their dreams who passed on messages. So good skill, get used to it, figure out how to do it. The other thing about seeing someone's dreams, and you mentioned this already, Zach, but just to lean into it, it's a reason Egwene's found it a little unpleasant. When you see what someone's dreaming, you may see how they really see you. Not what they say to you in real life, but how they picture you. And that's not always complimentary.
It's very Freudian. It's a snapshot of your psyche and get some of these true subconscious reactions. Being able to see that consciously can be off-putting.
The wise ones feel it's a growth moment. It's empowering to know how people really look at you. Okay. All right. Side conversation happens at this point. They're not talking to Egwene now. Mullane reveals to the other two wise ones that she's decided she wants to marry Bael, one of the clan chiefs. He's been referenced before as like the tallest man anyone has ever seen. Really tall guy. There was a humorous line earlier in their conversations that I didn't reference back then, where they were talking about men and said there are some kind of men that there's really only three things you can do with. You can stay away from them, you can kill them, or you can marry them.
Mm.
And Melaine references that when she says to the two, I need to marry Bale because I can't stay away from him and I can't kill him. So I gotta go with option 3. And they're both like, you said you'd never marry, and well, no, this is how it is now. So then she turns to Amis and Bear and says, I want you two to act as my first sisters in this marriage process. So this is Aiel culture stuff. We're not going to get deep into it, but it leads them to all be laughing and hugging, and there's joy, and this is a great time. But as that's happening, then Avienda leans over to Egwene and says, if a woman of your land, would any of them be willing to accept a sister wife? Now, it's not explained here. We've had it talked about in a previous book. Remind us what a sister wife is.
A sister wife is someone who is also married to your husband. Within Aiel custom, it goes a little bit deeper. That typically, I think it actually is that order. It's kind of a sister and then wife. That the bond between sister wives is actually closer than the bond between each sister wife and the husband.
Right. So if you're going to agree to marry, both be married to that guy, first you have to become sisters. And then you're both married. And that's a thing. The Aiel can become sisters. Okay. That's a little different. Emmeline found this a little confusing when she was reading it. A lot of people do at this point.
That being said, the saying goes that the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. So, I mean, I vibe with it that the relationships you choose are stronger than something you just happen to be born into.
Wow, that was deep. But yes, I can't argue with it.
I'm just pointing out there are real world analogies that are quite common to think about.
Now, Egwene's response, because she's learned about this sister wife thing, she's like, I don't think that would be likely where I'm from. I mean, just two women marrying the same guy. And she's like, but, maybe if two women were really good friends, then maybe it could be done. So again, this is more foreshadowing. Not telling you why. What'd you say, Zach?
I said, is it? Couldn't possibly be.
Yes, remember this conversation. All right. Done in the sweat tents, Egwene steps out into the cold. They're following the wise ones out. And her stuff isn't there anymore. Her robe, her shoes, they're gone. Bear says, oh, you won't be needing those. Not yet. I sent them back to your tent. And they're already freezing. That's just Egwene that's already freezing. It turns out she and Avienda are both being given a discipline task. Avienda, because she's been too stubborn and inattentive to her duties, like with the tea. Mm-hmm. Egwene, because she was too slow in responding to their summons to the sweat tent. When we say come, you come now. Heck, you come yesterday.
Whether she was being lazy or obstinate, she was late.
So the task they're given is to run 50 times around the camp. Now, this isn't, the massive multi-thousand member camp. This is just this small cluster of wise ones tents.
No,
but
it's not small. I'd say at the very least, it's going to be like a track.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
And so
50 times around in their birthday suits.
Let's see. A quick little math. 400 times 50, 4,000, 20,000 meters. So like a 20K.
Ish. Off they go. Avienda just takes off running. Egwene hesitates but a moment, and then she's off after her friend. Now, while they're running, they converse, and we get some goodies from the conversation. One, the girls learn that the wise ones have been playing each other off each other. You kind of alluded to that earlier when you...
Yeah.
Well, elaborate. What have they learned about this now, Zach?
That they're not just telling Egwene, you should be more like Avienda. They're also telling Avienda, you should be more like Egwene.
The same exact thing.
And dividing them and trying to make them better by turning them into competition for each other rather than companions.
So no matter how good Avienda tries to be, she's always trying to reach up to Egwene's example. And Egwene is doing the same exact thing. And so they never could be good enough. They just keep pushing each other even harder is what happens.
Which is a underhanded yet quite successful leadership technique.
Very wise one-ish. Avienda, we learn here, is upset that a sentry keeps trying to sneak into Rand's tent. Now, we knew that. We learned that before. But in conversation with Egwene, she acknowledges, but I don't really think Rand has slept with her. I'm just annoyed at how he looks at her. He doesn't just dismiss her. He gets all googly-eyed. Gaga. And Egwene's like, well, she does keep walking around naked. And, you know, she looks like she looks. Any man would stare.
Plus, whether he's getting googly-eyed or not, you're definitely going to interpret it as such because he's going to blush a lot easier than any Aiel would.
Avienda keeps insisting Rand belongs to Elaine and should not be unfaithful. Egwene explains they are not betrothed. There's no absolute reason Rand has to stay true to Elaine. You know, our side of things, that's not how it works. Even though she is kind of thinking, why am I defending Rand in this? But he's free to make his own choices. Avienda still doesn't get it. The customs are just too different between the two cultures. That's the problem here. Egwene tries to better understand, as we're talking about customs, why sleeping in Rand's tent bothers Avienda so much. And it becomes clear it has nothing to do with impropriety or that she doesn't trust Rand. It's something else. And they never get to the bottom of it in this 50-lap run.
I mean, it's possible that they talk more around things that we don't catch, but yeah, no, there's no real answer.
The chapter ends with the note of how both these women are clearly built of the integrity that makes for Aiel and Wise Ones, because no one is monitoring their run. Yet there's not even a moment in their thoughts of doing less than 50 laps. Good for them. Our next chapter, number 6, is Gateways, and we shift to Rand's POV for this chapter. He's lying in his bedroom, just having woke from a dream, and trying to sense what it was that woke him up. Stands up, wraps himself in sardine, and he reaches out with his senses as he leaves his room looking around. You know, this is his floor in the roof of the Maidens.
But currently his spidey sense is tingling and he's got to investigate.
Yep. Now he finds nothing, but he can sense something. Something's coming, getting closer, and it's evil.
Evil.
Yeah, and that can't be good. So he reaches into his pocket and touches that small angreal he keeps with him now all the time. When did we last see Rand use that, Zach?
Last time we saw him use this fat man was to give him that extra little push and chop off that black cord connecting Asmodean to the Dark One.
Right. So it gives him an ability to grab just a little more sardine. Rand, at this point, hearkens to Lan's teaching that a man should choose his own location for battle when he can. So rather than staying here and waiting for whatever's coming, he runs up stairs to the highest floor to a place where there's a big, wide open space. And there actually is the symbol, the ancient symbol of the Aes Sedai right here in this spot. And he kind of stands right over it. And he
How
waits.
cinematic.
Yes. And entering the room from 3 different directions then are dogs. Just dogs show up. But he can tell these aren't everyday dogs. They got glowing silver eyes. These are some kind of shadow spawn.
They just want snuggles.
Now he was expecting... No. no, these are bad dogs.
No,
Bad
no such
dogs.
thing.
Emmeline says they're not good boys.
All dogs are good boys. Even good
No,
girls are
these
good
are
boys.
not good
All
boys.
dogs are good boys.
They are looking at him, and Rand's like, okay, I was thinking Murdrel or something worse. These are just dogs. I mean, bad dogs, regardless of what Zach thinks. But I think I can handle the dogs. So he just summons his Sidene sword. Now, he's been training with Lan regularly still, and Lan has actually told him recently his skill is actually about Blade Master level now. So he's pretty confident he can take out 3 dogs. And indeed, as they suddenly charge at him, Rand's like swish, swash, swoosh, does dancing the forms, flows right through them, and the dogs are mincemeat.
Aww.
And then Rand gets a surprise. Because as he's thinking, I'm done, I'm going to move along now, he looks and the pieces of dogs melt and then form up into 3 distinct puddles that then... Sorry, I'm laughing. Emmeline's description of the battle. Swish, swash, swoosh.
I mean, it's what you said.
More or less. It was very good. But she also called them the Doggos of Doom. That's not bad. I think
it's appropriate as these
doggos
do begin to reform.
The Doggos of Doom rise up again. And here they are, looking just as bad as they did before, ready to go. And Rand's like, okay, clearly these shadow spawn can't just be killed with sword cuts. So Rand pulls from some past knowledge in his head, something he doesn't really understand, and he shoots out a beam of super white light at all 3 dogs, and they go shiny and glittery and disappear, as does a swath of the wall behind them. Rand does not know what that was that he just did, just that he used it once long ago and it seemed appropriate again.
Now, I take tiny issue with him saying he used it once long ago, these things. Because I also have tiny issue with him not having recognition of seeing these creatures. Because he's seen them before.
In The Dragon Reborn.
Yes.
Did he? He knew he was being hunted by them.
There is an end of chapter scene, I'm pretty confident, where we see him blast one of these. He has no recognition of what it is, the stuff, but it doesn't start to reform. It doesn't come after him, so he clearly has dispatched it.
Now,
I'll look it up after.
I did some research on this because I thought you might be right. I did some research, and that is not true. He might have chopped them up or something, and yeah, please go ahead and dig. But I researched that, and no. So they were hunting after him, but he didn't do this to them. Because when I looked it up, there is no previous instance of Rand doing this or actually seeing these, these creatures. They're not named yet here. We're getting to that in a moment. So he remembers doing this long ago, and the point is that we've never seen him do this. And that's something, again, that first-time readers should remember. He's remembering doing something he's not remembered. Now, Emmeline, you made a good point in there. We're going to come back to talk about that in just a little bit, so I'm not going to put that on screen. Moraine appears at that moment, though, that he's taking care of these dogs. And she wants to know urgently if any of them bit him or bled on him or, any bodily fluids get on you. And he's like, what are you doing here? Basically, how did you get in here? The maidens keep everyone out. She's like, I get some privileges. As an Aes Sedai, they kind of treat me a little like a wise one, and I made a reason I needed to see you, and they let me through. Now, she references those creatures as Darkhounds. And that triggers childhood tales Rand recalls hearing about dark hounds. You know, kids were told fairy tales about be careful of the dark hounds, they might get you. We have seen Moraine deal with dark hounds before in The Dragon Reborn as they were fleeing Ilion. And, you know, she dealt with them using balefire.
Correct.
So that is a time we've seen this white bar done. That's what it is. It's balefire. But Rand hasn't had any personal conversation about it.
Yes.
She shares with Rand why she's asking about did anything get on you, that the blood and saliva of dark hounds is poisonous. One drop can kill you in excruciating pain. And her power to heal would probably not do a thing about it. But nope, nothing touched him. And she then says, and you're lucky there were only 3. They usually travel in larger packs. Now, can I talk to you about what you did to kill them? Because, of course, she recognized it. She's used it.
Sorry, I'm going to put this away and keep looking later. Because got to be present.
As we said before, this is called balefire. Why would Moraine want to urgently talk to him about it? I mean, Emmeline dropped in the chat the forbidden weave.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be done for a reason. This thing is, Moraine had explained previously, such a terrible thing that, like, back in the War of Power, both sides said, let's not use this anymore.
Yeah, it literally unmakes threads of the pattern.
Balefire is the nuke of its day.
Yeah, it can jeopardize all reality. Bad news, Emmeline says. Yes, we agree. But her comment about larger packs of dark hounds leaves Rand not wanting to take any time to talk about this balefire thing. He recognizes, so a Forsaken could have sent a larger pack here, and just 3 came at me. There are other targets they might have been going for, and he needs to go check and see. Now, who is he thinking, perhaps? Who might he be thinking of?
I mean, there's a couple options, but one that is quite important to him, particularly right now, that if any of the Forsaken found out about would probably want dead, would be his nice friend Jason Natale, aka Asmodean.
Absolutely, which he can't acknowledge to Moraine anything about.
No.
Rand rushes down the floors and out the doors, the front doors, where an impatient Lan is like, hey, where's Moraine? Because, of course, the maidens wouldn't let him in. He's been waiting outside. Rand does not answer the question, though. He's doing a beeline clear across the city. And what we find out he's going to is to find where Mat is. So not Asmodean, because Mat is another one that there could be a reason Forsaken might choose to take out. What is it about Mat that could make him a target?
I mean, he's a Taviran. He's tied in with Rand here. He's got some of his own personal weird hero things going on.
Right.
And it hasn't been fully developed yet? No. Would the Dark probably want to keep it from developing? Yeah.
Yeah. So getting to the place where he knew Mat was staying, he finds 3 more dark hounds ripping and tearing at a door that's kind of metal bound that they haven't been able to get in yet, and he can assume Mat's on the other side of the door. And when he sees them, he's like, okay, I know how to deal with dark hounds now. But he has a thought, and before blasting them with balefire, he darts off to the side and blasts across the door. So not at the door, and takes out all 3 at once. Why did he choose to shoot from the side? This was very smart.
Because if he shoots through the door and Mat's on the other side, he might shoot Mat.
Yeah, he doesn't really understand what he's doing yet. He knows that previous shot he saw when he took out the dogs, that then there was part of the wall behind them gone. So he actually has the wisdom to think, I don't know how to control this.
Yeah, he knows enough to know he knows nothing about the penetrative power of balefire.
And collateral damage, when it's my boy Mat over there, not acceptable.
I mean, he wouldn't really accept it, period. But especially with a friend.
Now, with the dogs gone, Rand goes to that door and checks. Mat, are you okay? It's me, it's Rand. And Matt responds, Rand? And opens the door, and there's Matt, naked, except for his fox head medallion that he's still wearing. He seems to wear that all the time.
Nice.
He's like, they're gone? You got rid of them? Oh, good. I don't want to know anything about what that was about. Don't tell me. And Rand's like, yeah, they were dark hounds. I took care of them. I didn't want to hear. He's like, it's done, okay? And behind Matt, Rand sees an Aiel maiden, guessing from the spears and shield laying on the ground, and she's just wrapping a robe around herself. So clearly she didn't have any clothes on either, and it doesn't take too much to figure out what they were doing in this space.
Dancing the spears, of course.
Now, Matt speaks to being a little puzzled now that, thanks for coming and doing what you did, but I don't quite know what happened here, because the door here has just some scrapes in it, little rips in it, but I swore a moment ago there was like a whole hole in the door, and one of these dogs had stuck its head through, because Melindra then speared it, and so Melindra, the name of the maiden, and the spear didn't do anything at all, and it I don't understand how there's just little holes in the door now. Now, at this point, Moraine, Lan, and a bunch of Fardarais Mai come running up at this point. Moraine is quite irritated Rand had run off. The maidens, many of them practically naked, just glad now to see Rand is fine, as far as he can tell. I mean, most of them have their shufas pulled up, so they're veiled. We don't know what they're really looking like. Matt, seeing all these people pouring into the chamber, lets out a yelp and ducks back into his room to try to start pulling clothes on. Melindra's kind of smirking at him, finding that rather humorous. But then Rand notes Matt is rubbing his arm, like it's bothering him, and he asks, what's wrong with your arm? And this is where Matt says, again, when the hound had forced its way through the door, its whole head is sticking there, and I'm trying to hold the door closed. It slobbered all over my arm. But, there's no slobber now. So, again, I'm confused, but it itches. It kind of hurts, and it even looks like a burn.
It's okay, Matt. We just need to amputate your arm.
Hearing this, Moraine rushes up and tries to heal him. But nothing happens to his arm. Instead, he's like, ooh, brr, and holds his medallion away from his skin. He's like, this got really cold. What the heck are you doing? If you want to do something, don't make this cold. Try healing my arm. She's like, Rand sees, she's visibly startled that, she did just try to heal him, and all that happened is his medallion got cold. But she calmly says, well, if it's cold, you might try taking it off. So he does, and then she grabs his head and does the heal thing again, and he goes all spastic, that thingy that happens when Aes Sedai heal people.
Well, especially when Aes Sedai heal significantly, because as little as this seems to be something bothering him about it, it's apparently at least the echo of a very grievous injury.
Yeah, as they've just been talking about it, his arm has started puffing up, and it's not just the forearm, it's the whole arm now. Like, some venomous creature bit him, and he's gonna swell and go into anaphylactic shock. But after the healing, Matt's arm is back to normal. Of course, Matt then complains about the healing. Does it always have to be like that? Moraine basically tells him, mind your manners and suck it up, or I'll go find Nynaeve wherever she's at and sick her on you. Moraine tells Matt then, you should stay in bed tomorrow to rest. Do what you want, but that's my encouragement. And Melindra steps up behind him. Oh, I'll see to it that he stays in bed. And makes him
she didn't say anything about making sure he rested.
Right. There's even some follow-up, some suggestive kind of looks and comments. Matt starts squirming. The other maidens start like, you go, sister. He
doesn't squirm to indicate that he doesn't want it. He just squirms to indicate, I don't want this talked about right here, right now.
Yeah, one of them says, teach him to sing, which seems to be code. It is
Is it?
very
Maybe
much
it's
the
not.
bro mentality flipped on its head. The women all cheering each other on in this sort of mentality. Matt looks ready to run for the hills. Rand tells the maidens basically, back off. Give Matt some peace. And, they just begrudgingly start to move. They don't exactly clear out. But then Moraine comes out and says, you all can go now. He needs to rest. And they just start leaving. Boom. And Rand grabs one of them, the one who'd actually made that comment about teach him to sing, Adeline, and says, okay, I give you direction of what to do and you don't do it. How am I going to be able to trust all of you and order you during battle if I can't trust you in simple things like this? Her response, this wasn't a battle. When we dance the spears, we will follow your orders as the Karakarn, but you are no wetland king for us. And the other ladies around are like, yeah, you're no king, dude. We do what we want.
And that's fair.
Now the maidens do leave, and that leaves just Moraine, Lan, and Rand together now. And at this point, she tries to talk to Rand again, but he's like, hey, talk to the hand. This can wait till tomorrow. And if it has anything to do with that foxhead medallion of Matt's, because I saw that clearly blocked your channeling, you can forget it. It's Matt's. He earned it. I will not help you get it away from him. Yes, he paid for it. But Moraine then actually does something we have never seen her do before. She says, please.
What? We've never seen this before?
No, she's like, please, Rand. And it's practically begging. And Lan, his reaction is just glare darts, daggers at Rand for being so arrogant. And he berates him. This is not how a man acts, to make a woman plead. Moraine goes on, next level, to do something that is series altering. Okay, that's spoiler light. She bluntly states that she will not be with him forever, and there are things he must know that she can share. She will do anything, even be Guy Shane, Guy Shan, Guy Sean, whatever we want to call it. She will do that for him if he will only let her help him while she can. That finally gets through to Rand. And she apologizes for any offense she's caused in the past out of her direct desire, to help him, that it might have felt like manipulation. I'm sorry. And he apologizes for his rudeness and accepts her help.
I feel like apologizing for something that might have felt like manipulation when it definitely was manipulation is just gaslighting. Now,
the best she can do.
Apologizing for manipulation, no, that's fine.
Rand does actually feel, out of all of this, that I think she's still manipulating me.
I mean,
but
yeah.
He decides fighting against her just to be stubborn lacks purpose. She probably does know things that would benefit me. So she's opened the door. I'm going to accept it. And with that, we get some information from Moraine to Rand and to us. 1, she identifies Balefire. Again, we knew what it was. He did not. And notes about how it's been forbidden since the War of Power. We've talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
But he notes he's seen her use this forbidden Balefire, this forbidden weave. When did he see her use it? Because it wasn't with the Darkhounds before. He wasn't there for that. When did he see her use Balefire?
If I remember correctly, she used it down in the Stone of Tyr, taken out of Forsaken.
Exactly. Balal got Balefired. Rand was right there fighting with Balal, and Moraine took the moment when he was distracted to take him out. She's like, yes, you saw me do that, because even what is forbidden is sometimes necessary. Then she explains again the issue with Balefire. When you Balefire something, it ceases to exist, but it ceases to exist before the moment of its destruction. And the greater the power of that Balefire, the further back in time it ceases to exist. And thus any impact that thing or person or whatever had all the way back to when it's been erased, all those impacts are undone.
Yeah, there's a lot of retconning necessary.
Yes. And
It's
everyone knows retconning is an issue.
it's an author's dream and nightmare at the same time.
Now, Rand's like, okay, so understanding what you just said, this is why Matt's still alive. Because he got all slobbered on by that Darkhound, and then I zapped it, and the slobber was gone. And even so, there was still an impact, but from what you told me, he should be dead. Since I undid it with Balefire, he's still alive. Sounds like a win. And she's like, yeah, but imagine that sort of stuff being done again and again and again with people and things Balefired, and with people as powerful as you could actually zap something so strongly that it's been erased a day, 2 days back.
Yeah.
All of that kind of stuff has an impact that could destabilize the entire pattern. In the past, it nearly destroyed the world. And in your case, it could shift things so that while the pattern is focused around you as the Dragon Reborn, this massive Taveran, you could potentially shift that. We don't know. You could no longer be the Dragon Reborn if you do too much damage to the pattern.
Ultimately, little rips here and there, tearing out bits of threads, those can get stitched back together. Those can be fixed. But if you have enough of those added together, or a big enough swath, there's just no fixing that. There's no extra materials, no threads that can be woven back in, and it is irreparable damage to that pattern.
Right? Now, Rand says, okay, I get all this now. I understand what you're saying. I cannot promise I will never use it again. So if that's what you're asking, and she's like, no. That's not what I was expecting. I just need you to understand the risks involved so you will be careful. And not just use it haphazardly as, hey, this is my go-to now. You're Balefired. You're Balefired. You're Balefired. No. Okay. All right. So we're there. We got that. At that point, Rand states he needs to check on something else.
Because at this point, he remembers Asmodean.
Yes. Now, why does he not have the same urgency, though? He's not like running off somewhere else real fast.
It's not because he's less concerned. It's not like he's went, oh, I care about Matt and I don't care about making sure Asmodean is okay. It's more, I can't
Fatalistic.
show that I'm concerned about this. And if something is wrong, it already happened.
Exactly. That's where I go a little fatalism. It's like whatever's done is done. So I'll go find out what happened now. But I'm not going to be able to stop it.
If he ran off and was suddenly on alert and Moraine saw it, she'd be coming with, and then he'd have to explain himself.
And that's probably why he chooses to do this in a different way. He uses the power to open a gateway. And she's like, what the heck is that? She's not seen this. Now, we've seen him do this before. He's opened this gateway. There's nothing but blackness beyond it. And she says, what is that? And he does not tell her. He just says, once I've done something, I can do it again. And then he orders her to leave Matt alone. And don't try to take that medallion from him. Now, she argues. She says, that's a Terangrial. It should be in the White Tower for study. But he forbids it. And he sees this inner turmoil. And she comes around to complying with what she said. And she agrees to obey.
I will say,
it actually shows deference.
It's very Aes Sedai entitled behavior to be like, all Terangrial should belong to the White Tower. It should be studied there.
That's the default.
I don't think there's anything wrong with saying all Terangrial probably should get studied and probably should be studied by Aes Sedai, maybe the White Tower. But it's also like, that's not yours. You can't just claim anything related to the power is yours. oh, but at the same time, the White Tower has been gentling anyone who's a male channeler or grabbing any female channelers for centuries. It's very like, what's mine is mine, and anything that I want is mine is also mine.
That's how they roll. Absolutely. But yep, she has made a promise to obey him. She actually does here now. So she and Lan depart, and then Rand steps through the gateway. And through the gateway is just a 6-foot floating disc. Again, a replica of that ancient symbol of the Aes Sedai. We learn that Asmodean has mentioned how gateways can actually be used differently from the way Rand uses it. Because this, what he's going to do is called skimming. You go into this in-between spot and take that to travel somewhere. And then create another gateway, and you're at your destination.
Yeah, basically he's going between, but he could just be going there.
Right, straight from A to B. And that's called something different. That's called, with a capital T, traveling. But Asmodean doesn't currently have the strength to show him how to do it. Why not?
Because he's still got that that sieve placed upon him.
Sieve. I see what you did. Yeah. Sort of a shield, but it lets a little bit of power trickle through. I'm reading Emmeline's post. When you go on travelators in airports, do you pretend you're doing this? I think that's a British term. We don't have travelators.
No, we call them either magic carpets or moving sidewalks.
Oh, shut up. What? We don't do that.
We have terms for them. It's not a travelator. That's exactly what she's
flat
talking
escalator. About. Okay. What did you called it a moving carpet though, Zach?
No, it's a magic carpet or a moving sidewalk.
Okay, I've heard moving sidewalk. I have not heard it called a magic carpet.
Those are both terms I've heard in America.
She likes magic carpet. Flat escalator actually makes no sense because escalator escalates you. Like that's an up term. So I don't think we can do flat.
And that's
escalator.
why it's travelator.
I get it. I kind of like travelator now. I might start using that
I'm not
just
gonna
to
use
sound
it.
like I'm British.
Well, that's the problem. Unfortunately, I live in Texas. So if I start using travelator, people are going to look at me and go, what, are you pretending to be British? You being pretentious? What? So...
Now she asks, what do we actually call them? And what I call them is the thing the old people ride because I have legs at work and I can just move along.
Oh, I like using them because I get to zoom past.
Literally, we were just flying back from Charleston. Your mother wouldn't let me get on the travelator.
Why not?
Because there was an old couple on it, and she was sure I'd try to force my way past them.
You're supposed to. Traffic on one side,
I know.
Still, and the other side you go past.
Yes, I would have said excuse me, and they would have
designed to be wide enough for that. We're getting into weird territory here. Why did you send us down this road, Dad?
I didn't. Emmeline did.
Nah, you did this.
Which is why we love when patrons join us for these episodes. Travelator, man. That's my new term. I love it. All right. So here's a weird thing about traveling that we learned from Asmodean.
Cool.
Even if he could demonstrate how to do it, it wouldn't help Rand right now. Because you can't travel unless you know the starting point really well. And, Rand doesn't know Matt's place well enough. I mean, you have to study the place and all.
I mean, we don't technically know that, but we probably know that.
But that's what Asmodean has said. You have to know it really well.
No, I'm just saying we don't technically know that he doesn't know Matt's place.
Oh, yeah. I'd assume. Because the point of Matt choosing this place out here is it was so far away from Rand.
Yeah.
He was getting away from Rand. It's safe to assume Rand doesn't know this place well. But to Rand, it's illogical that you have to know the place you're traveling from really well.
I mean, you have to know the to well as well, but you do have to know the from a lot better.
That was kind of the point, though. You don't have to know the place you're going to very well.
You do have to.
You just have to have an idea where you're going. You don't want to end up inside a mountain.
Any concept, typically.
But it's not like the danger of teleporting in a
No.
lot of fantasy stuff where you might end up inside a tree. No, because
No,
you
not
create the
quite.
gateway, you can see where you're going before you go through is how it would
Now,
work.
that being said, there is some minor danger to that you'll have to stick around for the spoiler room to find out about.
Yes, like that. Okay, enough talking about this before we say too much. But I do want to say, when Rand was questioning, what do you mean you have to know where you're traveling from really well? Asmodean looks at him like, are you just stupid? Yeah, he couldn't even explain it to him. Didn't make sense. Anyway, he's not traveling, he's skimming. So he gets on that disc.
Mm-hmm.
It travels basically 12 inches and it stops. And he makes another gateway. Because to go such a short distance through skimming is like effortless.
It's nothing.
Opens another gateway, steps out, and he's in the building where Asmodean is. And finds Asmodean hasn't noticed anything. The dude's still sleeping.
Nice.
Behind that barrier. Rand doesn't even go in there. He can just see, oh, he's fine. But he does see there's Darkhound tracks here in this building that lead right up to the barrier. And then leave. So he doesn't know what that means. He knows they didn't attack Asmodean. Did they stop because the barrier kept them out? You know, his trap? Or were they just on a recon mission, which is a little scary. If they have that much intelligence, you know, they were told to go find Asmodean and report back.
They're smart boys.
But they are bad boys, just to be clear.
Nah, they're still good boys.
Now, Rand doesn't know what that all means, but he does know one thing that he wants to do, and he takes his own Sidene and gets rid of the tracks. Now, to clarify, the stone and tile around here have footprints pushed down into them.
Yeah, the dirt wouldn't.
Right, explain that. We've learned that before about Darkhounds. What's the deal?
Darkhounds are weird and have like some weird brimstone-y eye leave depressions in stone thing going on. It's kind of cool, but it's also like weird.
Yeah. So he raises all those indentations back up, so it's all nice and flat again. No one would know they had come to check on an innocent gleeman, Jason Natal. He's got to keep Asmodean's cover.
Which, I mean, to be honest, I think it's more effort than was necessary, because he could have much easier just been like, yeah, no, they probably just looked here for me because it's one of the places I could have been.
While he's here, Rand also checks on a nearby alcove where he's got those 2 keys hidden, those access keys to the massive Saint-Angreal statues in 2 different places around the world. One for male channelers, one for female channelers. Little refreshment. Rand knows these little figures allow a person to access these massive Saint-Angreals, the most powerful that ever existed.
Mm-hmm.
No matter where you are in the world, you can access the power through these access keys.
Mm-hmm.
He also knows these Saint-Angreals were completed after the sealing of the Boar of the Dark One's prison during the War of Power. Now, he doesn't know how he knows that. He just knows.
I'm going to be honest, I thought you were going to pull out like some more drinks or a charcuterie board or something, because you told us you were getting some refreshment.
No, don't tempt me. No. He also knows this male access key was hidden before any of the male Aes Sedai, when it was made, could find it, because, you know, they were going mad. Didn't want a mad Aes Sedai to have access to this much power.
So at the barest minimum, he knows that one's never been used.
Yeah, I mean, this much power could do unknown things, and crazy people could have broke the world, for all they know.
Let me re-speak. That one had never been used. He and Asmodean used it last book.
Right.
Yeah.
He's got these keys hidden and keeping them hidden because he must not let them fall into the wrong hands. You know, so he uses the power again to hide it in the alcove. It's basically
Hmm.
hidden in plain sight. It's just in this
Hmm.
simple alcove that he makes it look like nothing's there. And he's got traps as well in case somebody discerns there's something here.
Speaking
Which
of
is,
not letting it fall into the wrong hands.
yeah, it was probably good. He set traps because he hears a woman's voice behind him, and ta-da, it's Lanfear, and she saw what he was doing.
Oh,
She
hi.
saw the access keys. Now she makes an assumption that is probably very good for Rand. She assumes, oh, you've got both the access keys. You're starting to consider the plan I offered, aren't you? You know, to join with me, to overcome the other Forsaken, even to supplant the great Lord himself, and we will rule all. Yes, you go, Rand. Now, Rand has odd words in response. They just come pouring out of him, and it was worth quoting. Do you want to read that?
Sure. You were always ambitious, Mirren. Why do you think I turned away from you? It wasn't Ilyena, whatever you like to think. You were out of my heart long before I ever met her. Ambition is all there is to you. Power is all you ever wanted. You disgust me.
So, where the heck did that come from?
I mean,
Lanfear. She's just staring at him in shock. And then she pleads, Luce Theron, you know I love you. I've always loved you. You must know this. And Rand, who's as shocked as Lanfear at the words that just came out of his mouth, tries to hide it and just harshly responds, I am Randall Thor.
can we go back to the methinks they doth protest a bit too much?
Okay.
Just saying, he seems pretty adamant.
Lanfear then, okay, she has clearly re-envisioned in her own mind what actually happened back at the time with Luce Theron, with Ilyena, and all that. And now you got a different response from what Rand just said. But Rand is like, I don't know why I said that. So he just, blurts out, I'm Randall Thor. I'm not Luce Theron. Lanfear, again, puts some connections together that are probably in Rand's favor. She assumes, therefore, that the things he just said is not memories Rand has. It's lies that Asmodean has told Rand. And she says that you can't be trusting Asmodean. He will lie to spin things in his favor.
Which probably isn't wrong.
Probably not. As proof, she shares that Asmodean severed his own mother from the power and let Myrddraal drag her away.
Yeah, but maybe his mother was like really mean.
You grounded me one time too many, Mom. You're out of here. But she's saying you can't trust him. Now Rand's like, okay, wait a second. I can't trust him, but you gave him to me as a teacher?
Well,
Now,
it's not about trusting him, it's about needing him.
yeah. And that's where she comes back with. She's saying, you can trust him to teach you because he has no other choice. I've turned everyone else against him. He has to cling to you. So he needs you, but he may think he doesn't need me. So he will try to turn you against me.
All right, Lanfear, why are you here?
Yeah. She says, okay, I came because Ravine sent those Darkhounds.
Sure he did.
I would have come sooner, but I can't let the others know I'm on your side, Rand. And Rand's inside his head going, oh, crap. A Forsaken is on my side and loves me?
Yeah, we're not sure exactly what that counts for, what that means. Not sure we want that.
Oh, and she wants me to join with her and overthrow the other Forsaken and perhaps replace the Dark One and the Creator. She is nuts.
I don't know. Sounds pretty swell to me.
He does have a moment, though. He's like, maybe she's not as crazy, though. Maybe those Sa'angreal are truly that powerful. Not that he's tempted. He's just not sure she's completely nuts.
Sure, I'm sure he's not at all tempted.
Now Rand questions, okay, you said Ravine sent those? Why Ravine? There's all these Forsaken, and he starts rattling off the names of all of them, and she's like, no. It is Ravine because it's about Kyrian. He's like, what? You're getting in Ravine's way. And she shares, Ravine basically is ruling Andor. He's using Queen Morghese as his puppet.
Okay.
And he plans to put her... What was that?
We're just following along. We're seeing where this is going.
And he says he plans to put her on the throne in Kyrian.
The Sun.
So he'll control Andor and Kyrian.
Okay.
Now, why does he think Rand's getting in his way?
Well, he did send lords from Tyr to settle the unrest and supply Kyrian. And that's even without knowing the knowledge that he's going to be bringing a whole bunch of Aiel to quell this. However, if he knows where to find Rand, he knows a certain level of that, and may be suspecting, oh, he's stabilizing this, he's coming with a large force, he's going to keep me from accomplishing what I want to in Kyrian.
There you go.
Makes sense.
I mean, Rand's initial motives with Kyrian was totally humanitarian, but Lanfear sees his moves the same way Ravine does. You were making a power play. You were expanding your power. Rand's like, I'm not even going to try to explain humanitarianism to Lanfear.
Yeah, you shouldn't try. She probably was a master at it before you were born. Just that. No. Maybe not.
Now, what Rand does do at this point is politely thank Lanfear for the information. He's intentionally thinking a little politeness might keep her talking. I might learn more. And he does, a little bit. She doesn't appreciate that he wards his dreams from her. And he says, whoa. No. I don't ward them just from you. I ward them from everybody because people were peeking.
And truly, that's what I know how to do. I don't know how to make a person specific. I just block it all.
Right? And she's like, oh yeah, those wise ones. They were peeking into your dreams. I could teach them some lessons. I could make them run terrified from the world of dreams. And he's like, no, I don't think you should do that. Now, partly he's trying to keep Lanfear from attacking wise ones. Yeah. But he takes the tack of, you said it already. You don't want the other Forsaken knowing you're actively helping me. And she's like, oh, yeah, all right, I guess. So he's manipulating. Maybe he's learned something from Moiraine. We also learned that she did peek into Egwene's dreams. Mm-hmm. Now, she did that because Egwene and Rand were kind of a thing once upon a time, and Lanfear is a jealous beep. And looking in, just to see
the censorship.
Just to see where Egwene's at now, it's like, oh yeah, she doesn't love you. She's nothing now. In fact, all she dreams about is Gawain and Galad, his stepbrother. And most of the time it's Gawain.
But I mean, sometimes it's both, so.
Okay, I did not need that in my head. Thank you.
What? Rand's allowed to dream up 3 women, but she's not allowed to dream up 2 guys?
Kyrian is the French place. Keep your menage a trois out of Andor, okay?
None of the worlds are carbon copies of real world, and they have a lot of mixes, so I can put that wherever I want it.
All right, at this point, thank goodness the conversation is interrupted by a knock on the door. Lanfear opens a gateway, couple parting words, and she's gone. And a maiden comes in to announce the clan chiefs have come to speak with Rand. Going to them, he hears big news. The clans are on the move. What?
Not necessarily good news.
Oh, no, not necessarily. The Shido have started out for the Jangai Pass to get over the Dragon Wall. That leads right down into Kyrian. And the clans that haven't declared support for Rand, they're also following the Shido. They're going the same direction. Does that mean they're with the Shido or just checking it out? No one knows. Rand's like, well, we gotta go too then. It's go time, people. But the clan chiefs say it doesn't matter what we do now. We're not going to be able to catch the Shido and stop them. And he's like, crap, there goes my plan for bringing peace. Why? Why does that kill his peace plan?
Because if the Shido are ahead of them, the Shido are going to probably wreak havoc ahead of him because Couladin's been spouting off the let's return to our former glory, let's kill off everyone, let's continue our warrior ways, I'm going to lead you to conquer. So if Couladin's going off and doing that, we're coming behind them to try and pick up whatever pieces remain. We're not defending, we're avenging.
So he's like, all right, we may not be able to stop them, but we're going to be right on their heels. We'll try to deal with what we can as fast as possible. This moves us to chapter 7, our last one for today. This is a really short chapter, which is why I slipped it in. And it's called Departure.
Okay.
We're back in Egwene's point of view, and it's the next morning. Everybody's busily packing up to leave. And Egwene, she's tired, but not from running those 50 laps the day before. She's tired because she had that job to do in the dream world to find Amisa's dream, and she succeeded. So for the first time, she identified someone's dream, and Amis was ready for her. Amis wasn't just, oh, you're in my dream. No, she is a dream walker. She saw Egwene and said, well done, girl. Had her come in.
Finally.
They had tea because it's her dream and she can do what she wants. So they had tea. They celebrated. That alone would not have made Egwene tired, because when you're in someone's dream, you're not getting rest. Okay, it's not a resting sleep. You're still basically mentally awake. But when she was done with that, then she's like, oh, goody, I have a new skill I know how to do. And so she went around poking into lots of people's dreams because she can do it now. And what we're seeing most of this chapter is her looking at people that she checked out their dreams and her thoughts on what she knows about these people now. But she's tired because she did that most of the night. Did not get much real rest. One thing she notes right at the beginning here is she found Rand's dream. Except not, because she found a big blank space where Rand was. So she found how he's warding the dream. There's nothing there when you try to look.
She found him and it was a brick wall.
Egwene, looking around at everybody busily packing up, she sees the merchant, Hadnan Kadir, getting his wagons ready, which don't have any merchant goods on them now because he ran a fire sale back when Moraine was saying, we need to take this stuff to the tower, all these objects of power. Oh, you need to clear your wagon. So he sold everything really dirt cheap. And Egwene bought quite a few things from him back at that time.
When it's dirt cheap, might as well.
You go for a deal, man. But she looked into his dreams last night. Ugh. They were dark, unpleasant, even lewd. And now she basically thinks he's completely disgusting.
Granted, exactly what Egwene does and doesn't think is lewd might be a little bit of her Two Rivers ideas of things.
Then again, we do know he's a dark friend.
And particularly icky. So, like, it's very possible he had some icky dreams in weird ways.
She is on her horse. Mist is the horse she's using right now.
Why'd she miss it?
Approaches the roof of the Maidens. And she sees they've shifted tactics with the Sendry. So what Egwene said apparently sunk in with somebody, because she's not naked anymore. Instead, she's wearing a bulky black cloak as she does carrying objects, whatever tasks they've given her.
Gotcha. They're sweating her to death.
Oh man, she is going to be so hot and miserable. Now
she's going to get heat stroke over and over.
Egwene peeked in on Sendry's dreams, and they were full of her being tortured and just terror-filled dreams. And she's like, no wonder this woman's miserable. She comes upon Rand then, talking with clan chiefs. She doesn't go right up to Rand. She's just seeing him from a little ways off. He's also talking to some of the Aiel who are traitors. Not traitors. Traders.
You know, the traitors left last night. That's the Shido.
It's a funny word, traitor and traitor, because we don't usually say traitor. We say traitor.
Well, that's
because sound the same.
That's because we're American. I don't know what other people in other countries would say. Some might say traitor.
I think they're homophones. Yeah, I got that right. Two words, they're spelled different but sound the same. Homophone.
No, because they are supposed to be, like, in our pronunciation of it, sure, they're homophones, but that's our lazy pronunciation of them.
Speaking of
They're not meant
lazy,
to be.
say FOR.
For?
That's not how you usually say it. Your accent slips in sometimes. Your mom does it even worse, though. But you grew up with us, and it often comes out fur.
I mean, sometimes those boots with
I
the
went
fur.
for a walk, fur. We don't usually
Yeah.
say I went for a walk. Anyways, tangent. He's talking to these Aiel traders. These are ones who are not coming with him. All the warriors are coming with Rand. But these guys are merchants for the Aiel. They're staying in Rhuidean. And he's giving them a task, and Egwene overhears it. They're to reach out to the nearest Ogier steading and try to get Ogier to come and rebuild Rhuidean. And he's saying, give them a free hand. Don't try to restrict just how they work. Let them do their thing.
Now, there's two things I want to say about this.
Okay.
One, it's really funny to say rebuild because it's true. He did break a lot of it, and so rebuild is important. But also, it was never finished. So no, we're asking them to build it for the first time. That being said, giving them a free hand, best thing you could do here. The having them able to do what they want with it and envision, one of the best things you can ever do to an artist is give a vague concept and say, do what you want with it, but then also compensate them appropriately and not just like fairly, more than fairly, because they are giving you a piece of their creative genius.
There you
and
go.
It's huge.
She also then observes Matt nearby upon his horse, Pips, apparently ready to go, with a very tall, golden-haired maiden hanging out near him. And of course, we've met her. This is Melindra again. She apparently is a thing attached to Matt at the hip. And she seems to be trying to embarrass him, to tease him. And Egwene's like, yeah, darn right, because that woman's too old for Matt. She should be making him embarrassed. She didn't bother to look into Matt's dreams last night. She figured she knew just what he'd be dreaming about. What do you think of Egwene's perspective on Matt?
On the one hand, she might be right. On the other hand, it is totally unfair to just like make the assumption and be like, that being said, he might make very different themed but similar types of assumptions himself about other people, including Egwene. So is it fair? No. Is it fair in the way that it's balanced? Probably.
We have seen in the past books Egwene and Nynaeve misjudge Matt, judge Matt harshly, and I think it's fair to say they know a different Matt. They know the mischievous Matt they grew up with, but this dude has been through stuff already, and he's changed.
As often happens with troublemakers, especially at younger ages, they hyper focus on what is wrong, what he does wrong, what he does to cause problems, and make that his entire personality.
Yep.
It's not, but they can't see past it.
Now, she does pull up alongside him, not because she wants to hang out with Matt, but she's looking for Avienda and figures she might show up near here. And when Matt sees her, he comments in shock and humor at having just observed Rand tell Moraine to be quiet and go stand over there, and she did it. He's like, that's amazing. I don't know what he did or how he pulled it off, but I can't believe what I just saw. And Egwene can't believe what he just saw. She's
going to go give Rand a piece of her mind.
It's like Moraine is following Rand's orders now? What the heck changed? Because that's not right. I do not like that at all. Now, Avienda exits the roof of the Maidens, and Egwene goes right up to her and has to call her name out twice because she seems distracted. And Egwene's thinking, oh, it's still this thing with her having to sleep in Rand's tent. She's just so bothered by it. And she says again, really, I will talk to the wise ones to get them to not force you to sleep in Rand's room. Avienda's like, no, No, I don't want your help. That's not a problem to do that. Again, Egwene doesn't understand that. So it's bugging you, but it's not a problem.
Egwene doesn't know nearly as much as she'd like to about her friend, and definitely not as much as she thinks she does.
As the crowd around Rand starts to break up, then he swings up into his saddle, and one of the Aiel traders shouts out, "Are you not coming back to the Threefold Land? Because everything you're saying is as if you think this is it. You're never returning." Rand's response, here's a quote: "I hope to return, but who can say what will happen? The wheel weaves as the wheel wills."
He'd love to come back, but he might be dead before that.
And then he leaves them something to remember him. And using the power, he renews the flow of water to all the fountains of Rhuidean. What was that?
Don't worry about it.
I wanted to hear it.
Ah.
Anyways, water comes pouring out, and there's fountains all over the city. They're all gushing out water again. And for the Aiel, there's literally nothing more magical he could have done. I mean, water! By the way, inquiring minds want to know. You saw Emmeline put it in the chat. She wants to know too.
Maybe you'll have to isolate it in the audio and boost it, and
that's a challenge, man. That's a challenge.
Into the recorded episode.
A musical interlude. Okay, Egwene remains perplexed at what's going on here. You know, seeing Rand do that's a very Rand thing to do. To do something nice for people, something they'd really appreciate. But he did it with the freaking power. He's a male channeler. She grew up thinking they are the next things to the Dark One, of what you should fear and be terrified of. They're doomed to go mad. Maybe Aviendha is right to be afraid of him. But then looking at Aviendha, all she sees is absolute delight on her face. Not a whit of fear.
Because she's Aiel, and this is the best thing he could have done.
Right.
And it's funny because he also is like, I should have done that a while ago.
Yeah. And with that, Rand then leads the Aiel out of Rhuidean. For the final section of this chapter, about three and a half pages, we shift to Moraine's point of view. We don't get many of those. It's kind of, she's that secretive Aes Sedai, and we never get to know what she's thinking. But seated upon her horse, she's watching Hadden Kadir and the whole wagon train lead these power items away. And she's a little frustrated. This is only a small fraction of the objects here in Rhuidean. She really wishes she could have taken them all, but they don't have enough wagons, not even close. And looking back down the line of wagons, she sees beyond them to the center of town, where those glass columns are, for example. She can't touch those. Those are the ones the men walk through and they see the past. Well, the wise ones walk through them as well on their second visit to Rhuidean. But she also looks and sees near them 3 rings. And that's what the wise ones walk through on their first visit.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of similar to the rings that are in the White Tower that women go through. But for this one, this is what they do before they do any training at all. It's kind of a winnowing. Only the strong survive. Apparently, it doesn't matter which ring you walk through. You just pick one. Maybe it's fate. Maybe only one works. You've walked into the other 2, you were weak. But if you go through and come out, what happens is that you see all of the lifetimes you might possibly live. All these possibilities that could await you. And some don't make it, they believe, because they can't face it. They see things so terrible that they don't survive. But when you do come out, if you come out, you don't remember the memories. You can't. It's way too much. All these different lifetimes. You can't absorb it. All that you manage to hang on to are general impressions of what would happen, what must happen in your life, and what might happen. And we get Moraine knows all this because she went through that ring. And all she came back with mostly was this faint recollection that she describes as a spoonful of hope and a cup of despair.
I'm sure that won't amount to anything by the end of this book.
Beside her on Mandarb is Lan, not happy to see Moraine looking stressed, worried, afraid even.
He's like, never happy to see that.
I've seen you deal with Trollocs, fight Forsaken. You never look stressed out and worried. What is this? Is the end really here? Is that what this is?
I mean, maybe, but this also is like, she's had to almost deal with what it would be like for parenting around Rand. So
she's actually a little frustrated with herself that she let down her guard enough that Lan could see she was troubled.
Yeah.
But she says, what, are you asking me if Tarmin Gaiden is coming? I have no idea. No better than the birds in the air above us. Lan's response is simply to note, I've seen you impatient lately. I mean, that oath you gave to Rand to obey him, that is totally out of character for you, Moraine. What has possessed you lately? And her response is just the necessity to be close to Rand. He'd been pulling further and further away from her, and the Dragon Reborn has been her life goal. So she has to be able to guide him, to help him. And no matter what she tried, nothing was working. So this was it. She says, here's her direct comment. He needs whatever guidance I can give, and I will do everything short of sharing his bed to see he gets it.
Well, at least she draws a line.
And we get her thoughts. Again, her point of view. In her experience in the rings, that is something she remembers. That in one of her possible lives, she bedded Rand. And it did not go well.
Gotcha. So she wouldn't have drawn a line. She just knows it would be bad.
Yes, that's exactly what's being said here. She would have, if that's what it took, she'd sleep with him. But she already knows that one won't work. Nope, that's a disaster. Now, I don't know why it's a disaster.
I think we could guesstimate some things for a couple of reasons, like a couple of good reasons.
We could have fun speculating, but we're not that kind of podcast. Anyways, Moraine is somewhat moved that Lan is concerned for her. And he even tries to, she thinks, crack a joke to kind of lighten the mood and cheer her up a bit. And she's struck by, wow, Lan is really changing. The Lan I've been with for the last 20 years would not try to lighten the mood. He was a serious, focused guy at all times. He's changing, and she's sure Nynaeve is a big part of that.
It's her fault.
Well, he loves Nynaeve. She knows this, and she's never been jealous of who Lan would share a bed with, be interested in. They don't have that kind of relationship, but he's always been steadfast at her side regardless. And now he's still at her side. He's denied giving in to his feelings to Nynaeve, but he knows those feelings, she knows those feelings are changing him. And she also knows, as he said, she's changing. Change is not always good. But one good thing she thinks is, at least when it comes to Lan, and he's denied ever being able to have time with Nynaeve, she's taken some steps. She's made some arrangements that is not necessarily how it will be down the road. But what she's done, she hasn't told Lan. She's thinking she probably shouldn't mention it to him at all, because he's a stubborn man who would probably try to mess it up.
Yeah.
That's another spoiler light moment, so we can't tell you what that's about, but you might remember she's thinking it here.
Speaking of more spoiler light moments, keep going.
As the chapter ends, Moraine and Lan are part of this thick column of Aiel snaking up out of the valley of Rhuidean, and she thinks, yeah, we aren't the only ones being changed here. Rand, of course, continues to change, but these Aiel, the land has shaped them into a hard people, and now Rand is making something new out of them. She wished she could see what Rand would make of them in the end. I repeat, she wished she could see what Rand would make of them in the end. Hint, hint.
Anyway, that's the end of that chapter.
And this episode. That's where we stop for those of you that first-time readers. We are going to move into our spoiler room moment here in just a second. So if you don't want things spoiled, you need to get out. We've warned you. If you're still with us, all right, bye, Emmeline. Good to see you. If you're still with us, that means you've read the series and you're not worried about what we're going to do to you. So let me run it.
Weird. The spoiler room.
Okay. We need to roll to see who gets to spoil first. I actually wrote down what I want to spoil today, so I'm ready.
Nice.
Yeah, here we go. Oh, come on.
I guess I'm going first.
I've lost so many times now. I got a 5.
I got an 18.
Yeah, sheesh.
Apparently I can roll well here.
Well, good thing I wrote 2 things down. I'm ready. Okay,
I'm going to
take
one. Neither of those probably because it came in as we were talking today. Traveling, where you place your gateways. Typically not dangerous because typically what you're envisioning on the other side is not a dangerous place. That being said, maybe it's a Sandersonism. Maybe it's just freaking awesome. But Andrel proves that you absolutely can place the other side in something terrifying.
Right.
That would be horribly dangerous. And by doing so, it could come back to you instead of you go to it. It's particularly nice when he just throws some really, really big gateways into Dragon Mount and unleashes
pour lava out on people,
which is an interesting concept because he reaches in and it definitely he's pulling magma out through the gateway, but the moment it goes through the gateway, it becomes lava, right? Because like when it's underground, we call it magma, but when it's not, we call it lava. So like, is it when he makes the gateway or when it goes through the gateway? When does that semantic difference change?
As soon as it goes through is where I'm there. I'm pretty sure.
Either way, raining lava from the sky, damn cool.
I like it. All right. I sensed you were going to talk about that in the spoiler room when we got through it. All right. I've got to talk about, and I mean, we certainly highlighted the foreshadowing. Moraine went through that ring and saw all of her possible future lives.
Yep.
And this is added to information she already got from the Aelfin or Eelfin or whatnot.
Yep.
But she knows at this point she's not going to be around much longer.
No, she's got a lot of prophetic information to work with. From that to the Elfin and the Eelfin to Min's viewings to all these things, and they're compounding to this.
Yep. So she knows she's going to die. She's going to be gone off the board. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's more appropriate.
Yeah.
She believes she'll die.
Yes. But she knows her time with Rand, the clock is ticking seriously. She knows what's coming. She knows the opportunities that will be in front of her. Okay, because she's seen multiple possibilities. So she knows Lanfear is about to go off like a grenade. And she will have a chance to stop her sacrificing herself so that Rand can go on. So she only has this time, and that has changed. Her thought, she'd been working to kind of really get closer and bully Rand and listening, and finally realizes this is not working, and now we're leaving. That means it's not much longer that I have. And that's why, I don't care. I'd sleep with him if that would work, but I knew that doesn't work already. So I will be Guy Shane. I will do whatever. You have to listen. I will apologize.
Mm-hmm. But don't worry,
this
she'll be
is where
back
it comes
in
from.
8-9 books. She just doesn't know that.
So that's mine. That's just because we get right here. She went through the ring. She's seen the possibilities. She knows what she's dealing with, and it changes how she acts.
Well, good spoiled, Dad.
Thank you, son. Yours too. All right. It's been 30 seconds shy of 2 hours, so it's time for us to wrap up.
Let's see, is our outro at least 30 seconds so that we can get that 2-hour mark? Also, you say 30 seconds. You haven't brushed it yet. We've only got 10 now, so it's...
I think we're going to go over the 2-hour mark then. Yeah, sorry. But people who just listen to audio, it'll be under 2 hours because we shorten it up then. It always works that way.
Can't believe it.
Well, there's all the stuff, people. Please follow us. Join us in Discord. All those things.
If you're just listening, go look at the show notes. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. We want to interact with you. We love seeing people on Discord. We keep having new people jumping in.
Absolutely. It's been fun. And it's been good seeing you, Zach. Everyone, we'll talk to you next time.
Bye-bye.